Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another pre-lockout chat ahead of round two. This is your host, Bails, and you can find me at Bails DT on all of the socials. And we had another game of footy last night. Hang on, let me just double check that the audio is working on the YouTube stream. Give me a sec. Hang on. Perfect. Yeah, all good and ready to go. So, yeah, looking forward to another week of footy. Hopefully, you guys had a couple of the big guns that scored well last night, and obviously, another good game for you. So I'll just quickly recap exactly what just a couple of the scores last night. Me and Tim will go over everything a bit more in depth on Sunday night. But in terms of some of the scores from last night, good old Gavin, Cy Wanganeen Miller went big with 122 points. A shame certain Rolly Bonner couldn't get involved in a bit of the action there, but 122 points for Gavin. Be huge if you started with him. I think he's a bit of a more unique pick. Actually, I'm just getting his current ownership stats up on the app here. So he's only got an ownership at just under 12%. So I had a look at the people in the content creators. Only two coaches, DC and Jake, both from Hat Chat, both had Wanganeen Miller, but the rest of us unfortunately didn't. So very, very good work by them to have a good score like that. Jack Steele, huge as well, 120 points. He looks back to his best from a couple of years ago. 11 tackles. I think Freako put up earlier that he's had 23 tackle attempts over the first 2 weeks, and he's landed 17 of them. So we know that's back to what he was doing a couple of years ago. Whether he can get back to averaging 120, he's probably not going to average that high, but I think that an average of 110 points is definitely on the cards after watching you over the first 2 weeks. So hopefully you can keep that momentum going up. Josh Dacos for a few people in the draft with 103 points. He scored quite well. He's about the only he's the only Collingwood player who went over 100, and only just one of two that went over 85. So a few other players that scored well. Oh, actually didn't score well. Ryan Marshall, 86. Bit disappointing. Only the 13 hitouts as well. So he had the 24 disposal, which was great. It seemed like another game with there weren't many stoppages, but then again, you look at Darcy Cannon, Mason Cox, they dominated the hitouts 47 to 13 there. But Marshall will be fine. Just a bit of a quieter game for him, but he's still got plenty of the ball. Darcy Cameron, 84 as well for a few of those draft coaches. Marcus Winhage had a good second half, got an 83, so maybe a guy to potentially keep an eye on heading into the next couple of rounds. Maybe probably got to watch one more week, but he could be someone to put on the watch list. Jack Sinclair, only the 79. He'll drop a bit in price as well, so he'll be a target for us, I'm sure, in a few weeks' time. Moving down the list here's a bit more. Riley Bonner, 61, I say very disappointing, but he's still priced at. He was priced just over 50. So he still made cash. He still outperformed what he was priced at. It was just more the fact that he turned the ball over a few times. I did actually listen to the press conference from Ross Lyon after. He did actually say that they were still pretty happy with 98% of Riley Bonner's game was just those two disposals, and they're not going to. And he said they're not going to just drop him. They want to sort of nurture these guys and get them settled into a new system. So that's at least promising for us owners, if anyone out there was worried about him getting dropped. So again, that wasn't exactly word for word what he said, but just sort of around what he was saying. So so he should be fine. He's Essendon and Richmond coming up. So I think a couple of okay matchups for defenders, especially the Richmond one as well. So looking forward to seeing him hopefully put up a better score. But Nick Dacos was obviously the big one last night. Didn't have a very good game at all. Didn't really seem to get tagged by an individual player. It was almost more like a system tag, but he only had the 22 touches, 1 mark, and only 2 tackles. So not a great score for him. Everyone out there, there's a lot of people that don't own him. So we're all going to be fairly happy that he put up a bit of a stinker. He'll drop a bit this week. He'll have a huge break even into Brisbane at the Gabba, which isn't easy, but Dacos sort of guy that will probably go big in that type of game. Then to a Finn McGuinness tag, then a buy, then a Willem Drew tag potentially. So that's sort of what non-owners were hoping for, waiting for a poor score and then drop some cash. We'll have to see how that all plays out. But non-owners are rejoicing, that's for sure. Darcy Wilson, 57, got to that score with a pretty good third quarter, 33 points top scored actually in the game for that quarter. So at least it was good. I had him on my field as my F6, so I was just hoping for not a poor score. 57's okay. I would like to think that won't be my best 22, but then again with Bonner's 61, there might be some other poor scores dish up. Maybe Wilson might be counted. You never know. And that was pretty much it. And Jordan DeGoey only scored 28 points in a full game of football. So that's quite interesting there as well. So, but there you go. We'll just quickly go through as well. The Sunday squads have been trimmed. So for the Bulldogs, Oscar Baker, Sam Darcy and Caleb Poulter come into the side. James Hunt's out through suspension. Lockie McNeil has been dropped. Maybe a couple of people had him on their forward benches, but he's been dropped. So there's a red dot already. And Rory Lobb's been dropped as well. And for Gold Coast, Jed Walton, Ned Moyle and Ben Long are into the side. And with Ned Moyle coming in, Jared Witts is actually out injured. That was reported a little bit earlier today. Malcolm Rosa suspended and Darcy McPherson is out as the sub. So for anyone that had a Bodie Uland on their bench, he has held his spot as well. So, and I think that's pretty much it from that game. We'll move on to the next game, Richmond and Port Adelaide. So for Richmond, Ben Miller, James Trezise, Tom Brown, McKelty Lafayette, I hope I've pronounced it correctly. Obviously, I think it was the NRL player or whatever, is making his debut for Richmond. And Sam Banks have come in. Tyler Young, Josh Gibcus, Dion Prestia, Nathan Broad, and Jacob Hopper are all out injured. So a few changes coming there for Richmond. And then Jace Burgoyne and Dylan Williams are in for Port Adelaide. And then Jed McEntie's injured. And Jason Horn-Francis is out. So with that, Ollie Wines probably gets a slight bump in his CBAs and might actually score right. And, of course, I made that trade last night of going Wines to Bonner. So I can't do anything as well. I think Warney is listed in there as well. He also did a similar move, and so we're sort of stuck with that Warney, unfortunately, and a lot of people that made that move. But yeah, hopefully it'll turn out okay for us, and hopefully Wines doesn't go 120 plus. For West Coast, Jermaine Jones, Harry Barnett is into the site, and Ryan Marich is in. So yeah, Barnett in. I'd assume most of us can still loop. You've probably got a Zach Williams, probably a Zach Reed. Like, there's going to be a couple of guys there, but there might be coaches out there that we're looking at a Barnett as their loop, and you might have a loop this week, so might just have to go straight captain. But yeah, hopefully you've got someone at least there. Oscar Allen, Andrew Gaff, and Alex Witherden are all out with Gaff and Witherden dropped, and Oscar Allen's obviously out injured with that. I think it was that knee injuries out for a little bit. So, and then Giants, James Peatling comes in for Nick Haynes, who's out for personal reasons as well. So nothing too big coming from that from the Giants side. So they're the sort of couple of little sort of team ins and outs. So, yeah, obviously send through your questions if you want to get your questions answered as well. We've got a fair few people watching over on YouTube and listening in on Twitter. So thanks, as always, for tuning in, guys. And let's get stuck into a few questions. But if you haven't already, if you're tuning on YouTube, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are getting pretty close to 2,000 subscribers now. It's really rocketed up this pre-season, which is fantastic. So if any of you, and even if any of you on Twitter haven't liked or subscribed to the video, then just head over there if you want to. But yeah, let's get into some of these questions. If people want to know my trades as well, just before we get into the questions as well, I've obviously did Wines to Bonner last night, locked that in. I was pretty confident with that. And then Horn Front's being out, Bonner drops a stinker. So it's only fitting that Wines goes to get 100 plus now. And then my other trade was deliberating between a couple of trades. I've ended up, I'm probably going to be doing Grundy to Sherry. Just banks me cash. I get Sherry. I'm worried if I don't get Sherry this week that I'll get other forced trades next week and can't jump on him. So I thought, well, I don't have too many issues my own side this week. So I thought, we'll jump on the players I think going to make a lot of cash and score points. And I think that was Bonner, and I think it will be Sherry as well. So I was looking at going a Jai Clark to Oliver Dempsey, but with the fact that Tanner Brun's out, I think Jai Clark will go okay tonight for Geelong, and Crows like their stoppages. So I think Jai Clark could have a chance to get a few more tackles than what he did last week. So that's what I'm doing. I also didn't mind potentially going like a Lazar or something that's when that 5, but I feel like I've got Serena Kane in the back and can do something like that next week. And if someone gets dropped, I could just trade them out instead and go them up to that forward. But yeah, let's get into the questions. I wonder if Tim will join us at some point as well. I know he's a busy man at the moment, so we'll see if he jumps on. But I'll go through and answer some questions for everyone as well. So first question comes from Says, and he says, thoughts on Hewitt to Fife, which gets a forward rookie off field, and Clark to Dempsey would mean a whole Grundy. Realistically, he could make enough money to trade him to English or Marshall with his buy, or would you go Billings over Fife? Okay, so I'll answer these through the question. So the first one was thoughts on Hewitt to Fife. Yeah, I don't mind it because you're obviously going to be putting on a midfield rookie. I'm assuming you've gone from 2 midfield rookies to 3. Going from 3 to 4 is a bit risky. I still don't hate it because those 4 mid rookies are going to be the better scoring ones. So you could do that. I don't know if I'd have a Bonner then. I'd probably prefer 4 decent mid, like, and do real guns and rookies approach personally. And I don't mind the Clark to Dempsey move either. That was definitely one I'm looking at. I'm doing Grundy to Sherry if that sort of helps you out there. And then in terms of Billings over Fife, but this was what I was toying with if I was going to do this move, and I think I'm like it's hard because Billings has got the ceiling, but he's also got a buy coming up. Whereas Fife doesn't, and Fife's got a good role. So I'm leaning to Fife because you save a tiny bit of cash and you also get a guy that's playing through all the buys. If you're looking at just flipping Billings at his buy, then you probably could go Billings because he's got the higher ceiling. You probably hit the higher scores, so maybe you just go in to make the cash and flick him at his buy. But if you've got a Salem already, if you've got like a maybe Richmond player, a couple of players on the buy in round 6, then I'd probably look at 5. But yeah, I think both are good options. Harry Thomas, thoughts on Dawson VC tonight, mate? I love it. I'm going Dawson VC tonight, and I think he's going to have a big game. He had a poor one last week. I think he'll respond with a good score. And first game at home, Friday night, prime time. Crows need to get a win after last week, and who better to stand up than the captain? So I'm thinking he's a pretty good shot as a VC tonight. You paid an expensive price for him, so I think you almost have to in a way. To just back him in because you backed him at the start of the season. So that's where I'd be going. Tay Phillips, Collingwood ruck's very hard. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point, Tay. Is that, yeah, that's now the 3rd game in a row we've seen Collingwood rucks very, very tough to score against. So we've seen Briggs, then Grundy, then Marshall. So that's definitely a trend that's real because that's 3 pretty good ruckmen that they've kept to low scores in a row now. So maybe that means that the people holding Grundy, that could be a good thing because if Collingwood have held those rucks to poor scores, then Grundy was one of them. So you'd expect him to respond this week. So Matt has asked this question: Reid to Hoare or Clark to Sharp? Oh boy, this is a tough one because in one way you're getting Hoare in, you're making cash, and then also Jai Hart's going to make cash. But I feel like Jeremy Sharp could be on your field this week with a good matchup, and he's going to make a lot of cash. So I think I'm Jai Clark to Sharp, but if you're not going to play Sharp on field this week, then I'd be doing Reid to Hoare. I think keeping Reid as well might be a decent enough play because if Harry Barnett keeps his spot, well, he might do as well because Oscar's out for a while. So if Barnett keeps his spot on the side, he's going to be playing as an R3 for us, which means that we're not actually going to have a red dot. So, and that Zach Reid could be a decent red dot to have in round 4 when there's best 22. You've got no red dots probably. So, yeah, I don't mind holding Reid and going Clark to Sharp. So I think Sharp's a better rookie out of all of them. That's why I'd be leaning to their just. Liam Rosenberg, Newcomb better not score good this week because I put Bonner on the field instead of him. Well, I'm assuming you haven't put Newcomb on the bench, have you, Liam? I hope not, because if you have, you might as well put him on field for a rookie. But if he's on your bench, then you've got to trade him because there's no point having a 800k plus guy on your bench. So I'll be trading if he's on your bench. But if you got rid of him, then yeah, unfortunate that I traded Wines out. And he's probably I would imagine he's going to outscore Bonner as well. So I know how you feel. Power Prawn Star says, yeah, boy, I had Mike here and Steele. I don't know who Mike here is. And Bonner, who didn't have a touch till the second, still think he'll be okay. Yeah, I think Bonner will be okay. His quarter splits were very weird. He went 0 points the first quarter, 3 points in the third quarter, but it was his second quarter. He got 37 points in last quarter. I think he got 21. So or 20 points. So it was quite interesting to see his splits there, but hopefully he'll be okay moving forward. Cameron Laban said, do you think the Sinclair inclusion was a factor in Bonner's low score? Do you still have the role you expected? He still looked like he had a rebound. He got into wrong areas last night. He dropped like a couple of kicks didn't quite go the distance to him. Few things went his way. It's been a bit of an odd start to this fantasy season, to be fair. A lot of low score and stuff. So I think he'll be fine. Doesn't sound like he'll be dropped. I think he's got a couple of good matchups. Still got cash to make. if you had another poor one next week, then that would be a bit more of a trend that since Sinclair's back, that's back-to-back games he scored poorly. So I'll be holding for another week if you've got him. But if you didn't jump on, then you probably wouldn't be looking to jump on anymore as well. What have we got here? So Alec Johnson says, need some trade help. So number one, he's going Amon to Sharp, gets 3 rookies on field. Yeah, I don't mind that one. And then second trade, he's going Caulfield to Houston with Williams at D6, or Zach Reed to D'Ambrosio with 213k in the bank, Caulfield D7. I feel like I need 3 mid-rookies on field and get Caulfield off. I prefer the Zach Reed to D'Ambrosio trade because Williams D6 is good, and that could definitely be a play. I just like you getting rid of a red dot and you're getting a guy that's going to make some cash. So whereas you're going up to Houston, he's not going to make any cash. He only had a 75 last week. So for me, I'd be getting the Ambrosio in. You've got 213k in the bank anyway. So you've got a little bit of cash there to make a move if you want to do that. So I'd be doing Zach Reed to D'Ambrosio there. Dimmy nailed a 120 VC on Steel. Very nicely done, mates. Gavin also rank went from 55k to 10k. Nicely done, mate. Congrats on a good start to the round. My trade's confusing. Can either hold Buderick, drop him to Hoare for the money, and then hold Wines or Newcomb or both. Don't have Sharp and wanted to back Grundy for another week. So I'd be trading Buderick. I wouldn't be holding. He's got that 25. He's got a buy next week, and he was in your team to make some quick cash before his buy, and it would be the choice if you flip him in his buy or not. But the fact he's put up that poor score, he's got to go. So I'd be trading him. If you can, I'd be preferring to go up personally. I'd be going up I'd be going up with him. I'd be going to just across really. I'd be going to a D'Ambrosio. That's what I'd be doing. And Wines and Newcomb are interesting. Like you probably hold Wines now with that news on fronts out. I don't think he's just going to go absolutely bonkers with Horn fronts out, but you could hold him now. And Newcomb's got a huge break even. You probably backed him in to be a premium, underpriced premium. So you could hold, you could trade. It's really depends sort of who you can get for him, really. So that's what I'll be doing. But yeah, it's a tough one with a couple of people you could there. But I do have my co-host, and Tim has jumped on. Mate, how are you?
Bails, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Yes, I'm good, mate. I'm good.
You have a good start to the round?
Yeah, not too bad. So what I have had Jack Steele, I had Darcy Wilson on the bench, and Riley Bonner.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, I was just saying to everyone that with Jason on front is now being out for that's good for Wines, and of course that trade's locked in for me, so I can't do anything with that.
Yeah,
but, I think a few people are in that situation anyway.
I don't know if you kind of discussed it yet. I mean, I know I'm jumping on late, but obviously that's probably a shift in trade plans for many people, right? Because you'd think that Wines is now going to get CBAs.
Yeah, he get a bump. I think that a few people are saying that he's not probably. I think maybe Mead gets a bit of a bump, maybe Drew gets more of a bump as well, and a few other guys. But I think Wines, I think you're probably holding with Richmond now. But then again, I want to get your thoughts, because it could be that play where, like last year, we had guys like Andy McGrath and guys like that where we thought, we've got a good matchup, we can hold them for another week. We got this, we can hold them for another week. Is it a bit? Do you think Wines could be a bit like that, where people go, he's got a good matchup?
How long is Horn Francis out for? Do we know?
Apparently he did it today, so we don't actually know the extent of how long he's out for. But do you feel like Wines could be a guy that we just get stuck with and you jump off, or do you think with Horn Francis out, you could hold him for a week and see what happens?
I definitely think you can hold him for a week. I mean, look, what has he done as well? Is it hammy or something like that?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's probably a 3 to 4 weeker, right? I mean, look, I'm also, we had this kind of conversation during the week, you and I, Bales. Like, I was actually a little bit more bullish on Wines than what you were. I mean, I kind of thought that, Kenny doesn't normally lie to us. He said what he said, and, we normally expect to kind of be able to believe what Kenny said. And, we could go one or two ways. We could either go down the path that Kenny lied to us, or we could go down the path that maybe due to the matchup with West Coast, the game certainly wasn't going to suit Wines. Uncontested outside ball, So, maybe it was just a game where Kenny decided to, just... sorry, hang on, jumping in the car, radio's coming on, all that kind of shit. Maybe it was just a game where they kind of gave on ground less CBAs, just because there's really much of a risk.
Your audio's terrible. Sorry.
Sorry. It's converted to the... Hang on, all right, I should be back now. I'm on my headphones again. It's just, I got in the car and the bloody Bluetooth picked up. So, look, I mean, I'm not that off of Wines. I've got to think about what I'm going to do now, whether I'm going to pivot or not. But and I might, but it's just like, who else am I going to trade out? Like, it'd be probably a Grundy or a Newcomb for me,
Yeah, and because I've already locked in the Bonner trade, I'm not, because like the other guys in my midfield to sort of pivot off of, like I've got, of course it's saying there's an update for the AFL, so I can't even look at my team at the moment. Bloody, of course they do an update when I'm live on Twitter Spaces. But yeah, look, I've got Bontempelli, I've got Dawson. I'm not moving off of either of those guys. I've got Nick Martin. I'm not trading off of him, and then I've got the 3 rookies and Jack Steele. So it's like I'm not trading any of those guys, and I'm not benching a mid rookie. So I'm sort of locked in that hole, and I don't think I would have anticipated Horn-Fronts getting injured today, of course, but just my luck of and just the luck of everyone else that did that trade last night. But I think if you've got an opportunity to hold, you could. If you've got other, I think if
you could still
your
get
only
off.
issue, is that still you'd still trade if, let's say, Wine's your only issue, you didn't have any of these other guys underperformed, or you don't have another pressing issue, could you still trade him to a like if you're going to a Sarong, for example? I still think you do that trade.
Yeah. Look, I mean, yeah, maybe. I'm not. I do like Sarong as a trading target, but I'm not necessarily, one for kind of going to those players at this time of year. But look, I think
could be someone else.
Yeah. Look, I think. The issue is this that you've got, right? Like, Wines is going to need to have a really big score to get his cash gen going. Otherwise, he's just going to kind of tick along between now and the next 6 weeks, and chances are you're probably going to want him out after that kind of period anyway, because he's not a keeper. So, look, I don't think there's too much to be lost by getting off him anyway. But, if you have got other moves that, you were kind of 50-50 on which is the biggest priority, then, the news of Horn-Francis going down might have you pivot towards one of the others.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, very good point. Well, the fact you're on now, it's good. We can talk about some captain picks. Thanks, Bindi. Bindi, mate, put a comment. Love your work, Bails. Thanks, mate. Appreciate the comment.
Thanks, Bindi.
So captains this week. I did my top 5 on the Captain's Challenge, which is a shout out to Aaron Delaporte for making all that and whatever. It's a good resource there to see who the experts. I barely call me an expert. If you're an expert opinion, go to Calvin, obviously, is the number one. And Mitch thinks the big boys are pretty good there as well. So he's also another one to go to for your captains. But with captains this one, I think I had my top 5. I had Tom Green number 1. Obviously, that matchup against West Coast. Sorry, he's obviously just too good to pass up. You've got to go him. He's got the final game around as well. I had Nick Dacos number 2. I thought the St Kilda matchup, I didn't really look at him getting tagged as much, but he didn't really get tagged. It was just system tag and just didn't get the ball and just had a poor game. So he was my number 2. My number 3 was Big Maxi Gawn against Hawthorn. He's got a very, very good record, averaging 117.9 in 11 career games against them at the G. We know he goes pretty well at the G as well. So I think he's a great captain, or maybe even a VC if you've got a bit there. But the good thing is, obviously, with buys this week, you'll have up to the last game to do your VCs. Number 4 was Caleb Sarong against North Melbourne. I just think you can't not look at a guy like him, and he's a good VC option. First game tomorrow. And then number 5, I did have Jordan Dawson tonight against Geelong. I just have a feeling he's going to go big. Back at home, we know he scores pretty well at the Adelaide Oval. Captain's game. First primetime game for the Crows, as I mentioned before. I think he'll go pretty well. So I'm currently vice-captain Dawson into Max Gawn. Tim, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at Sheasel into Whitfield. Look, I don't, I've got a real kind of value team this year, so I don't have a huge amount of captain options. Probably the only other captain option maybe would be an Isaac Heaney. But was there some comments about maybe they were going to put some time into Heaney or something like that maybe this week?
I'm not sure. I think I know Pete from Plus Six Pod was saying that there's a chance that maybe Brad Scott does like a Will Setterfield to
I run with role.
Like
Yeah. So look, I'll probably stay with Sheasel and Whitfield. I mean, obviously Whitfield up against the Eagles on Sunday. I mean, I think he's got an average at Optus Stadium of like 108 or something along those lines. So
yeah, it's good average.
Yeah. So and obviously last game of the round as well for the captain. And then hopefully Sheasel will do well with that halfback role.
Yep, yeah, exactly. I was just see Warnie there as well. Warnie, mate, if you want to jump on for a chat, feel free. More than happy to get you on if you want to jump on for a chat as well. So, but yeah, we'll answer some questions. We'll keep going through a couple of these questions, Tim. So Nick, we answered that. So yeah, with no Jason Francis, worth keeping wine. So yeah, as we were saying, I think it could definitely be. But if you've got no issues, I still think it's okay to jump off if you could, or if you wanted to anyway. So so Daniel's got this one. Do I edit the Bonner trade from trading out Wines or change it to John Newcomb? So that's interesting. Would you trade out John Newcomb over Ollie Wines now? Newcomb break even to 122 as well?
That is a really good question.
I think I would. Huge break even. I think so. Yeah, Wines has still got a break even at 89, which isn't terrible. But Newcomb, if he drops another 70 this week, he's going down. He's going to be under 800k, and you wanted him to probably make a bit of cash to be maybe a luxury trader in the buys. Whereas, but then again, I think Levi said this on the Hat Chat Twitter space. Was it a couple of nights ago that you probably did pick Newcomb as an underpriced premium. So with our premiums, do you just want to jump off with the one poor score? Is that maybe how you see it a bit as well?
That's kind of how I see it, right? So obviously Will Day out for another, 8 weeks or 10 weeks or something along those lines. He's the number one banana in that midfield. I mean, he certainly looked a bit off the pace last week, but I kind of struggle to see how he's going to punch out 2 bad scores in a row. And yeah, it's kind of more that philosophy of, look, I brought him in as my underpriced premium. He doesn't have a buy. It was more about, I guess, sticking fat with my choice rather than, just jumping off. I mean, the thing that I would hate is if you jumped off Jai Newcomb and he smashed out a 120 this week.
Yeah, he only got it. You got a 139 or something like that in the practice going against the Dogs. So it's and not look, that long ago they put a big score.
I must admit, I'm a bit the same with Grundy. So look, I started with Cherry, so I don't, it's not that. And I know, well, what I've heard on the pods a lot this week is, trade Grundy if you're going to Cherry. But we haven't heard much talk about what to do with Grundy if you've already got Cherry. And so, look, my 3 biggest decisions this week were who do I trade out of Grundy, out of Newcomb, and out of Wines. And look, I did settle on Wines, and probably maybe the bit that put me over the edge was Selby. Once again, kind of just I guess just reaffirming. We didn't get the CDAs that we wanted from him. Didn't have the role there, and and I guess learnings from previous years when your mid prices don't fire, you just jump off them. So that's why I kind of went Wines' way. But now with these news, I'm nervous about both Newcomb and Grundy. So let's talk about Grundy for a second, right? Everyone talked about that game in Sydney and, how he was best on ground. He was interviewed by everyone after talking about what an amazing game he had. But I saw that game in 2 halves. I saw that game as the first half. He was actually getting pushed around and beaten up by Max. I think I've talked about it before. We kind of thought that maybe what had happened is he'd actually, got his ass torn at half time and came out and really lifted, and that's what kind of turned that game around. But with the game that they were playing last week, I mean, the game was that first game. The game was in hand. He lifted and they played and they won that game. Whereas last week, they were easily winning. There was no real reason for him to lift. So I am really concerned about Grundy and that kind of the hunger or the observable thirst. And yeah, I'm a bit worried that he might not be what we think he is, but I'm also trying to stick fat with my premiums with him and Newcomb.
As Tay put in the chat before, like this is just before you jumped on, was that if you looked at Marshall also struggled last night with an 80 odd. So that's now 3 weeks in a row that Collingwood have kept. They kept Briggs to a sub 70. They kept Grundy to a 53, and then they kept Marshall to an 80 odd last night. So that's now 3 pretty good rucks in a row they've kept to a low score. So that's a trend now that we got to follow. So, like for example, Collingwood in the next few weeks they've got Brisbane. We don't really need to be concerned with that too much. They got Hawthorn. then they've got the bias. There's actually not really anyone in the near future. Then Port Adelaide says that no rucks in the near future for Collingwood, but they've shown that they're pretty restrictive when it comes to rucks over the first few weeks. So is that a reason maybe that Grundy scored so poor last week? Was it a bit of a mixture of that and a few factors maybe? But
well, we don't know. I mean, that's the thing, we don't know, right? It could have been the matchup. It could have been what I was talking about in terms of like Grundy just lacking that kind of hunger. And the truth is we probably won't know for another game or so.
Yeah. So for those coaches, because all of the coaches that are doing, like, let's say it's a Grundy up to Gawn, let's say that's the trade. A lot of coaches are going like they might have gone on Wines or a mid-pricer down to a Jeremy Sharp and fielded Sharp or Roberts or whoever. If they've got this 500k in the bank, do you think it is a play to go Grundy up to Max? Because the thing is, at the end of the day, Max the captain option, and he's going to outscore Grundy anyway.
Yeah, look, the thing that I've struggled with is that when you do that move, like it's only 150k to go from Grundy up to Gawn, you're then left with $350,000 in the bank. Do you really want to have that amount?
I've got 311k, and I actually like the fact, so I'll just hold it over next week, and then round 4, you got Flanders, Tom Green, all them coming off bye. I think you could even go a Zach Fisher up to a Flanders post the bye. You can go even a Jordan. Like,
we're best 18. You need that money on the field. So that's, and look, I mean, obviously it's certainly a play. You can certainly do it. But my concern is that I just feel like that's too much money sitting on the bench when we're best 18. And I mean, the thing that I'm concerned about, like I'm taking a very long-term view. I've gone value in all of my players. I've got, a really solid bench. But the thing that I'm really worried about is these buy rounds, these next 4 buy rounds, I could end up being 500 or 1,000 points behind the competition because I've got value players that might not hit ceiling scores, that might only hit 90s or 100. And if I was best 22, it might be a good score. But with best 18, I might be getting really hurt. So I am a bit concerned about these buy rounds, but I kind of ended up, deciding to go a bit more of a DT Lemon kind of strategy and really try and find value in every single player. And I really wanted to try and be there at the end of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Adam's got this one. He said, keeping Wines now, was going to go Wines to Sharp, now going Grundy to Sherry. I'll probably tick that off. I'd rather probably Sherry and Sherry and Wines. So, Des FD100 says, do I trade McKenzie to Dempsey or Fife? Do I pocket cash and go for cash gen or go for the mid-pricer? I think Tim probably touched on it. You're probably looking at, would you look at going Fife to get the points on field? Fife's going to make cash as well.
So
not a lot, but...
So my counterpoint with Fife is this, right? So we know, obviously, at a stellar game, he only scored an 89 or whatever it was. The other thing I think we've got to consider there is he played a much higher time on ground than what we thought he might. And I have a suspicion that might have been something to do with all the injuries that they had. So I am also nervous that Fife isn't going to play that same time on ground every week. So,
and actually, I answered the question before as well. Only literally when you said that right then, I just thought of it. Someone actually asked me, do I go Billings or Fife? I'm actually going to change that to Billings because I actually just remembered Ryan Daniels actually posted before that Will Brodie's has flown over with the team and is a pretty decent chance to potentially come in and be the sub. So if that's the case, that screams to me they're playing North Melbourne. If they're up by 5-6 goals in the third quarter, that Fife might get a red vest. I think that's a real concern every week. You never know when they could sub him off any week, Yeah, so I changed to Billings, but I guess if Des is going up from Mackenzie to Billings, would that change? Would you get Billings over Dempsey?
I think I'd still go
Billings
Dempsey.
On field. Dempsey would be, I would assume Dempsey would be on field then, or they'd have another rookie on
is it?
field.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's that complex thinking that I struggle to do. Look, I like Dempsey as a pick, but if you're going to have him on field, and especially best 18, then maybe Billings is the way to go.
Yeah.
I really think that people need to be making. Well, if you haven't got Sharp, Dempsey a priority this week. That he looked absolutely stellar. He plays that high half forward role. He's got the haircut for Geelong, so he's guaranteed.
The toughest matchup in footy at the moment, though, he's coming up tonight. The Crows.
No. Oh, really?
No.
Let's ask Gold Coast about that last week.
Mate, we don't want to bring that up again. So we'll go. Power Prawn Star says, Crouch or Holmes worried about Crouch's job security? I'm not too worried about Crouch's job security, to be fair. It's just do you go Crouch or potentially Holmes, who could get defender status?
Holmes was another one I really, really liked the look of last week. He looked fantastic. But I feel like there's a little bit more safety in Crouch.
Yeah, I think I'd go. He's got that big score in his price cycle as well, so he's going to make cash. And Holmes is sort of a little bit more of an unknown quantity. Probably that old school. I know that Warning that keeps saying the old school mentality. If you go with the proven scorer, but normally it does actually normally work out to be the better move anyway. But I do like both. I do like Holmes as well. So if you need that little bit of extra cash, I think it's about 60k or 50k or something. Then you could go Holmes, but I like both. So maybe go Crouch. Bindi said, Bales, why can't you use the advanced trade option to back out of the Wines part of your trade? Yeah, because, well, as I said, Bindi, just because there's not really anyone else I would trade to Bonner, because I've got all the midfield spots locked in. I don't even think there's even another player, another line I'd even trade out to go to him. I might have another look, but I just don't see how it would work. So I think I'm pretty much locked into that trade. NA says Mackenzie to Fife with 196k left at F5, or Mackenzie to Sharp with 391k for the bench and filled Harley Reid at F5. Thinking Fife looks good, but I don't want to miss Sharp's cash gen early. This is another tough question.
Yeah, I really like Sharp as well.
Sharp can play in field this week.
Yeah, definitely.
Against North. Well, that's probably a question that people are looking at. It's definitely a dilemma I'm looking at as well, and a lot of people would be 3 spots, 4 rookies. Who are you benching? You've got Kai McKercher, who's probably locked for everyone, so we're not looking at him. So it's benching one of these 3. Riley Sanders, Jeremy Sharp, or Matt Roberts. I don't think you can bench Jeremy Sharp, so I think it's really comes down to probably Roberts and Sanders. So who are you benching at a Roberts and Sanders?
Well, I would. Here's how I think about it. So Sanders was subbed just after half time. Was in the third quarter last.
Yeah, about 5 minutes ago. I think in the third quarter.
What was he on? 60 something.
68. Yeah, he's on track for probably around the 100 mark or just below.
Do we think that Bevo is going to sub him again after all the fucking shit that came out last week?
Surely not.
Surely not. I mean, look, it's not guaranteed. Bevo could do bloody anything, right? But I think he would have copped a lot of shit from a lot of places about that. How, you got a debutant who's having a really good game and you bloody sub him out for no reason. I think he would have upset a lot of people, and I don't think he'll be doing that again.
Yeah. I still think Sanders has got the more upside. So I'm currently Roberts on the bench.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Roberts could go big. We saw him go 91 in opening round. So, but then again, actually, I think my mate actually said it to me that he had a quiet half in round 1, had a quiet half in round 2. What's to say doesn't have 2 quiet halves in the game and goes a 50 this week?
Look, I'll also just throw something else out there as well. So the first night we had at the Camfield, what was it, opening round, I think it was, when we were at Camfield. And, I was catching up with Jeppa there and having a good chat with him. And we were chatting about Matty Roberts. And his opinion of Matty Roberts was that he wouldn't want to play him as a third rookie on field. So I don't necessarily know why, but we didn't really get into too much details. But, look, I certainly trust Jeppa when it comes to knowing his stuff about rookies. So if he's also got a bit of concern about Roberts, that'll have to lead Sanders away as well.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. We've got plenty of questions. We'll try and go rapid for a few of these. Actually, hang on. We'll answer Jet's question because I actually put up on the screen on YouTube. So we'll go Nick Martin or Ollie Wines. Who would you be keeping? I'd be keeping Nick Martin, surely. I know Wines is the news about Hon Francis, but Nick Martin, we're looking at him potentially a top 6 defender.
I don't think Martin's copped too much criticism this week, but it wasn't a great game from him. Turned the ball over a lot.
The perfect game. It was a perfect game. He's not going to get tagged anymore. He's just going to be let free.
Look, I mean, once again, right, obviously Jeppa's an astute coach, right? And if Jeppa's asking that question, there's a good reason to be asking it. So, yeah, look, I mean, I think, look, I've got Amon, I've got Martin. I'm nervous about both of them as well, but I'm just, not willing to kind of jump off just yet. But, look, I don't know the answer. I'll be getting off Wines, but yeah, I think we should be watching Nick Martin too.
Yeah. Corey Tucker holds Sardis, or is he going to be sub again? Again, and it's just another Scott brother, so we have got no idea what's going to happen. They play Saturday night on the bench. Who have they got? So Ben Hobbs coming in for his first game. Potentially he could be subbed to ease him back in. I think he's had a bit of an interrupted preseason, so I can't imagine they're going to sub Sardis again. Teams don't normally like to play the sub 2 weeks in a row, especially if they see them being a best 22 player moving forward. So I would. You probably keep Sars. He looked pretty good in the second half, but again, if you've got no issues whatsoever, then he's not going to shoot up in cash. So you could move off, I think. So Matt's got a question for you, Tim. So he says, Guesty, Reed to Hoare, or Clark/Campbell to Sharp. So clearly doesn't care about my opinion. No,
so Reed to Hoare, or
Reed to Hoare, or Jai Clark, or Seth Campbell to Jeremy Sharp.
Oh. So I think Seth Campbell's still got a little bit of money to make. Jai Clark, mate, he could have a good game tonight, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, no Tanner Bruin. So
yeah.
He's gonna. I think he's gonna get a bump in game time. At least I think he'll play at least 65%.
But I think you need to get Sharp in. But
I'm still happy to go Campbell out to Sharp. I know Campbell might have a bit more cash to make, but I just feel like he could get dropped or be the sub at any point.
Oh, and look, I mean, what was he on 10 at half time last week as well?
Yeah.
I mean, he popped up for a late goal. But yeah, look, I don't like the Hoare thing. Look, one of the things I was looking at this week, you and me talked about this. I'm actually looking at trading out Reed for Massimo, which would actually give me 7 defenders in the back. But with Williams on bye this week, I can obviously bring Massimo onto the ground. So I don't know if that gives him some ideas to have a look at there as well. But look, I do, and I like that idea because I don't think many people are going to Massimo, and certainly giving me some structure in the back line there. And it allows me, because Yo's DPP, it allows me to trade anyone out from any line next week as well. So I'm not locked into my structure.
Yep.
But so look, I just kind of floated that as a bit of an idea for whoever it was that asked that question. But
Matt.
But yeah, look, I'm not a big fan of Marty Hoare, but I do think he should be getting in Sharp.
Yeah. And funny enough that you said that not many people are getting on Massimo. I looked last night. I'm just getting it up now. He was the most traded-in player for the week. He actually overtook Sherry for the most traded-in player for the week.
Jesus.
I'm actually just getting up the stats now because I'm keen to see if it's changed much from when I did my trade talk video earlier in the week. But while that loads, I'll just get some other questions up here as well. So we'll go to the next one, and the next one will be, what do we got?
Sure.
We'll go Berkey. Has gone Reed to Hall or Clark to Dempsey. So this is another one. So it's another one. So with Dempsey as well. Are you still looking at Reed potentially to Hall, or as you said, Musmos or something, or is it still Clark to Dempsey with the cash gen he's going to make?
So look, the reason why I was thinking about that was because I was going to go Wines down to Dempsey, which would give me 400k, and then you go up from Reed to a Massimo, right? And it was about not having too much cash on my bench and getting as much of that cash on my field as possible. But yeah, it's that Marty Hoare. I'm still not 100% convinced by that Marty Hoare trade. Well, it's not too bad. But
he played more lockdown defender last week, and it was Blake Howes and even McVie were playing more the free roaming roles.
Yeah, I'm just not sure that you want Marty Hoare, that's all.
Yeah. I guess you're getting Reed out for a playing player that's going to make some cash. So, but I still like Dempsey, though. He's going to make a lot of cash. So if you're going at a 2, I'm still probably Clark to Dempsey, but I still feel like Clark can have a good game tonight. So
yeah, I don't know that you want to be getting off Clark with tonight, but who knows?
His Crows a stoppage team, so a lot of stoppages that suits a guy like Jai Clark, get some of those tackles. So
yeah.
Sam Langley says, thoughts on Grundy to Gawn and Hewitt to Crouch? I'm ticking those two off. Those.
Yep.
Corin Smith, Campbell to Dempsey or Grundy to Sherry? So obviously this is the Grundy to Sherry trade.
Sherry, yeah.
So you'd be doing that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, you get the cash gem, but you're getting points on field.
And a lot of people have been saying this week, if you get those two things, you do that trade. So yeah, I'd probably agree with that as well. Ben Fitzgerald trades are Bonner to Wines. That's obviously locked in as well. And then McKenzie to Dempsey or Billings. Is it worth changing lines out to Newcomb, out with a tough matchup? So we answered that one before. So we said that potentially it could be a play of trading at Newcomb instead. But are you getting Dempsey and playing midfield or Billings? Well, we answered a bit before. You're probably going Billings, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, look, I mean, so what are we doing? Hang on. Say this one again. So bringing in Billings or Dempsey? This is bringing,
yes, and
I think I'd go Billings. I think I'd go Dempsey though, because hang on, this is a tough one.
I guess the good thing is you got cash for next week, so you can or you can roll over to the following week and get Tom Green, you can get Flanders, you can get anyone. You're getting Dempsey's going to make more cash.
Yeah, I think Dempsey's the priority because of the cash, right?
Yeah, I think so. But Billings going to make cash as well.
Well, is he? What's
And
his break even?
38.
38. So he's but he's not going to make a huge amount of cash. And
Okay,
he's got a good. Hasn't he also got a pretty tough run after this week?
He's got Hawthorn. Then he's got Port Adelaide and Adelaide and Adelaide. So that's a couple of tough matchups back to back.
And look, Billings is a real tough one, right? Because he almost could be a top 6 forward, or close enough to being a top 6 forward. But he's also one of those guys that can just be such a yo-yo. I'm going to say I don't know. I don't know. This is hard. This is a hard one because Billings obviously gives you that score on field. He's a ceiling player as well, so he could pop a ceiling score.
But then it's your cash.
You need your cash, man.
It's tough. I know. If you look at your team, you can foresee a few issues popping up. Like if you've got to hold one of Newcomb, Wines, and maybe another midfielder, or if you've got to hold a McKenzie, if you've got to hold Buderick, or you've got too many guys on buys, maybe that cash should come in very handy. So that might be something that maybe splits it for you. But yeah, it is a tough one. So Lucas reckons he thinks Clark's getting 70 plus tonight. So I could definitely see that. I could see that happening for sure. Jaden Donner says Amon or Wines to Bonner. So obviously Bonner's already in. Would you be going Amon out instead of Wines now with the Horn Francis injury? So we talk about Newcomb, but what about Amon?
So the thing for me about Amon is I just feel like last week was a floor score. Like, very few behinds kicked by Essendon. So I kind of think like if that's his bad game and that's kind of his flaw, then I'm pretty happy with that. And obviously with sorry, what was the question?
I was going to say Hawthorn didn't really chip it around though as much as what they had in the past though.
Yeah.
So maybe
they didn't chip it around. Well, yeah, but I know these bottom teams change game plans as well, but for how long do they keep their game plan around, especially when they're starting?
Yeah, it might revert back
on field.
Might revert back this week.
So yeah, look, I guess that's the way I play it, right? So okay, maybe they've changed game style, maybe they haven't. I don't know. But they didn't have the game style that suited him on that game, and he didn't get many kick-ins. He still scored an 80. For me, that kind of equals a floor score, and potentially. Look, I think who said it on? I can't remember which pod it was, right? But one of the boys said, look, if Essendon had kicked 3 more behinds, he would have got 3 more kick-ins. He would have scored an 89, and we probably wouldn't even be talking about him.
Yeah. But then obviously the counterpoint to that was, would he have taken the kick-ins, or would it have been Sicily, or would it have been someone else? So
sure.
It's a good point though. You could Amon's probably that guy I'd probably prefer to hold for one more week, and he's going to get defender status. He could still be around the top 6 defenders, whereas Wines is not going to be a top 8 mid. So
the cash gen's been killed. His cash gen's been killed.
And I know that Horn France is out, but doesn't, as Jaden did say, it doesn't just necessarily mean that Wines is going to get this massive CBA bump and be the number 1 midfielder in there and all of a sudden going to score 100 plus like moving forward. It's still going to be, he still might be an 80 to 95 guy and be a 65% midfielder and not go up much in cash. So yeah, I'd probably just go Wines out still, I think. But yeah, so we've got about 10 minutes to go in the Twitter space. So we'll try and go, Tim, for the next probably 5 or so minutes. We just go question and 1 sentence answer. And I know that means me keeping my answer to a sentence. So Fish and Crips, I do love that name. Grundy and Jai Clark to Sherry and Sharp, or Wines and Clark to Sharp and Fife. So essentially it comes down to Grundy to Sherry or Wines to Fife. I think it's Grundy to Sherry for me. Yeah. Peter said, I heard Witts is out. Any info? I don't quite know what he's out for. I think he's injured. I don't quite know what he's. If anyone knows that, put in the live chat on Twitter or YouTube, because I'm not sure what he's out for there. AFL Fantasy only, Lazaro to Billings or Grundy to Sherry? That's a tough one.
Grundy to Sherry.
Off field, I'm assuming. Yeah. Still Grundy to Sherry.
Well, is Lazaro on field, really?
I'm assuming so, because he's going Lazaro up to Billings.
But, maybe not necessarily. He might have a Harley Reid or a Darcy Wilson on field. It's still put Harley Reid on the bench, right, and put Jack Billings on the field. So, I'm guessing that he's got more than just Lazaro as a rookie. So I'm still going Grundy and Sherry.
Yeah. Corey Blackledge, who do I pick to trade? Grundy or Fisher? I'm holding Wines now. Oh, gee, I don't even know if well, it's got to be Grundy. I'm not trading Fisher. I think Fisher, that was just a poor score. So for me, it's Grundy. And if you don't have Sherry, Corey, I'd be going there. Or Gorn potentially, but I wouldn't be trading Fisher personally. Matt McDonald, ticking off Grundy to Sherry and Newcomb to Crouch, holding Wines. So obviously Grundy to Sherry, ticking off Newcomb to Crouch. I feel like that's just, I don't know. For me, that feels like you're just hopping from sort of, I know Newcomb's not mid-price, but it feels like you're sort of just hopping from one guy to another guy, but both aren't going to be top 8, I don't think.
Well, isn't like when... So
how you feel?
Yeah, I think the start of the year wasn't John Newcomb priced at, I think he was priced at 92, right? Like, because I looked at this, and this is what we talked about on the, the round review, right? I was thinking about Newcomb down to Crouch. But, I mean, we picked Nuke thinking that 95, he would increase from 95, right? We've kind of picked Nuke thinking he might go 100, 105. Do we think Crouch is going to go 100, 105? I don't. I think 95
I think 95,
is about the top. So I feel like that's a downgrade almost.
Yeah. And
now, it might get you up on the other side, but, yeah, I think there might be better things you can do there. Like, maybe there's something you could do there with DPP or something like that, and bring in someone better than a Crouch. I was initially looking at a Jordan Clark in the defensive line last week. Obviously, there's a bit of an injury concern, so I got off that. But, maybe there's...
I don't be trading Newcomb if you're going up personally. Like, it's not that much to get up to a good midfielder. So if you can do, and because you're going Granny to Sherry, you've got at least 100K. You can probably get someone.
Let's discuss this just quickly, right? Newcomb or Wines? Who would you trade out this week?
I'm still Wines, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm still, even though the change with Jason Horn-Francis, I still think that Wines is the trade out over Nuke.
Yeah, I think so as well. So actually, Robert's got this good question here. So not a bad one.
Sorry, on that, I just do want to say we could be wrong though. Having Will Day out of that Hawks midfield could really be not helping Nuke. So we could be wrong. Like, we could find that he really struggles over these next few weeks. But I think that my gut tells me Wines is the trade out.
Yeah. Robert's got this question here. Says, play the break-even game with Yo to Massimo. If you're happy with everything else, Mana to Sharp is the other trade. So I like the Mana to Sharp trade. If he's got no issues, what do you think about doing Yo to Massimo? Because you're going to make cash. Obviously, Yo at a poorer game, but tough matchup. What are you thinking? Oh, I think we've lost Tim. So, Tim, we can't hear you at the moment. Hang on. He's on mute. Hang on. You back there? No, can't hear him, unfortunately. Something must happen. We'll get Tim back on in a sec. But with that question, I don't know if I want to trade at Yo, though. If you've got absolutely nothing else as an issue, you could do it potentially, but I'm not sure. Hang on, Tim's back. Here we go.
I'm back. Sorry. What the hell are we talking about?
So I don't know if you... the question I said, so Robert has got this one, said, play the break-even game with Yo.
Oh, that's right.
Massimo. And he was saying he's happy with everything else in his team. He's going Mana to Sharp.
So the first thing is he says he has no other issues in his team. And I would probably be a little bit suspicious of that. Maybe there's... maybe he has got a Wines, but he's just thinking that, because Jason Horn-Francis is not playing this week to keep him in, or maybe he's got like a Grundy. I imagine a lot of us have got Grundy, right?
Maybe he doesn't have Dempsey though.
Sure.
Would you rather just go another rookie to Dempsey, even if it is just a Seth Campbell or something? It's Dempsey's going to make a lot of cash. I'd probably do that and keep going personally. But...
Look, I would. I mean, it'd be great if you could get a rookie like Dempsey or Sharp in. It'd be great if you could get a defensive rookie in, but there's not really that many defensive rookies offering too much value at the moment. So once again, I mean, I do like this idea of, maybe there's someone like a Wines you can go down to a Dempsey, bring in a rookie, and then maybe you've got enough cash to get someone like a Reed up to a Massimo or something like that in your defence. I mean, I'm really looking at that Reed. We've all got pretty much all got Williams on the bench, and we've all got Reed sitting there. So I'm just like, if you can get up on that Reed, you're going to, set yourself apart from the rest of the competition. So yeah, but look, I don't know his team obviously, and maybe he's right, maybe he doesn't have any issues.
Yeah. Actually, Tay's got this other comment about Dempsey. He said Dempsey will play Hawks in round 3 when everyone's got Sexton on bye, and he'll also play North down at GMHBA in round 5 when Jordan and Heaney are on bye. So that's actually a really good point. I still haven't ruled out the fact that even if Dempsey goes up 60, 70K this week, of myself paying 370K to get him in, because people might be against paying over 350 for a rookie, but I did it last year and it worked out pretty well. And if Dempsey is this guy that's going to score well, I'm happy to pay a premium and bring him in, especially because I feel like I wanted Sherry and Bonner this week. So if people aren't getting Dempsey this week, I know most people say it's too expensive. I'm still not against getting Dempsey next week. So I'm probably going to get Dempsey next week, to be fair, if he scores all right this week. So that's just my personal opinion. Charlie Rodwell, hey lads, first trade was going Clark to Sharp. Can't get Reed up to anyone for my second trade. So I've got to get rid of Wines, Buderick or Fisher. Leaning towards Buderick to D'Ambrosio at the moment. Yep, 100%. You definitely do Buderick to D'Ambrosio. That's the trade. Unless you had a couple $100K in the bank, then you could look at someone like a Jordan Clark or more expensive. But no, I like the D'Ambrosio trade. Or Campbell to Dempsey is the other trade. No, I'll be doing Buderick to D'Ambrosio there, Charlie. Bindi. Wits is at his wits' end, apparently. That's his injury.
You'll be competing with Luke for dad jokes.
Emily's got this one. Hey, guys, already have Gawn, Sherry and Grundy and 3 rookies in the midfield. Thoughts on moving Wines to Sharp and Buderick to Sheasel and playing for rookies in the midfield? 100%. Tick, tick. I love it.
Hang on, didn't he say he's got 3 rucks?
Yeah, 3 Gawn, Grundy and Cherry and 3 rookies in the midfield. Thoughts on moving Wines to Sharp and Buderick to Sheasel? I like Sheasel in. I'd still be getting Sheasel in probably if you can, but maybe you go Grundy out.
Get off Grundy.
Maybe keep. But then again, I think Emily's saying because if she trades Grundy, she'd probably be going down to a red dot ruck or getting Barnett, and she'd be missing Sharp, but she's also got Buderick. I would probably still do that. I'd probably still hold Grundy for another week and do those other trades and go Buderick to Sheasel and go Wines to Sharp, because Sharp's the rookie you need. Sheasel is very good option to get for Buderick. And I know you keep Grundy, but if you're going down to a red dot, you're essentially going down to, and you're going to miss Sharp or Sheasel.
Yeah.
I'm still ticking off those trades personally. Would you tick them off, or would you still be trading a Grundy down and maybe going and keep Wines and maybe go Buderick, but miss Sharp though? That's the thing.
Look, I must admit, I struggle with some of these scenarios, right? Like you're talking about 4 or 5 players. I'm trying to picture a team. I'm trying to picture DPP, and sometimes I just get lost. So if you feel like you're confident with it, I just sometimes go, yeah, just do what Bails thinks.
All right, we'll go a couple more here. Jared Venturous says, what 3 rookies would you fill between the 4? Yeah, we answered this one before. Sharp, Colby, Sanders, Roberts. Me and Tim were saying we would field Colby would be definitely the number 1, Sharp number 2 with the matchup, and we'd probably go Sanders 3 because we just can't. He's just not going to get subbed again, and Roberts being the 4th one. Essendon do like to possess the ball a little bit as well, so Roberts might not get as much of the ball, but again, it's rookie roulette at the end of the day. Like any one of those 4 could pop 100 on any given week, so you could just be unlucky and bench the guy that gets 100, but. Yeah, as long as Colby and Sharp are on field, I think it's really Sanders or Roberts. I feel like Sanders has got the opportunity to score more points, so I'd be going there and fielding him. What's this one? Robert said, if Clark and Manor avoid the vest, who has a better upside? Probably Clark, maybe. Because Manor could be the sub next week. I feel like if Manor gets a game, he could be the sub the next week. We answered that one before, but a lot of people, who goes first, Wines or Newcomb? Andrew got this one. Would you do Seth Campbell to Oliver Dempsey? Would you lock that in? I think I still would.
Yeah.
I know Campbell's got a -1 break even, I think, but
that could come to
if it wasn't for that,
could come to an end anytime soon.
Yeah. And he could get dropped, and Dempsey's going to make a lot more cash, so I'm still ticking it off. M said, got Steele VC 120, but I've got English and Wits out. Do I gamble?
No.
Definitely not. No, not at this early point of the year. 110 plus I'm locking in as a VC. You definitely lock in 120. I know, look at last week with Dawson and Bont. Like, they both went sub 100, both with 90s. And we saw with Laird last year, got a 57. You just don't know what's going to happen in a game of football. So when you got points to lock away, I think it's better to lock away and lose 10 points than take it on and lose 60. So, but you might only gain 10 or 20. Who scores more, Jackson or Wines? Probably Jackson.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. Hind, possible sub for the Bombers, said Aldo. Yep, that was from our question before about Sardis. Yeah, Massimo is the most traded player. Kevin was saying that one there, so I'm assuming that still stayed the same. I actually didn't check that page, to be fair. So is he still? I want to see how many people brought Massimo in. So he's been brought in by 14.2k coaches. That's a lot of coaches. Yeah, Sherry's next 12,500. Then you got Bonner's 11k. So there you go. Ridge has just commented saying Witz is out with a groin, and Henry's out for 6 weeks as well. I think that's for St Kilda, so that's interesting. So that'll be good for Bonner, I'd imagine, at least. Maybe they send Gavin up to a wing potentially. So and Darcy Wilson as well. He looked pretty good on the wing last night when Wilson was on there. So. We'll go 2 more questions. Billo said, pick a downgrade that gets me Grundy to Gawn. So Yo to Massimo, Wines to Billings, or Fisher to Fife. Oh, Tim's gone as well. So I don't know. Gee, that's a tough one to answer, Billo. And Tim might be back again. That's a tough one. I feel like I'm leaning towards Wines to Billings personally. I don't know. I don't love getting rid of Yo. And Massimo will probably taking a flight. Oh, Tim's back. Here he is. So I don't know if you heard that question, Tim. He wants to go Grundy to Gawn. So he's looking at Yo to Massimo, Wines to Billings, or Fisher to Fife.
Probably Wines to Billings out of those.
I think I'm Wines to Billings as well. Yeah, that would be what I'll be doing as well. And last question, we will go.
I don't mind the Grundy to Gawn thing though, hey?
No, yeah. I like it. You get a captain option.
I'm just scared that Grundy could come out and stick a 120 on our heads this week. That's all.
Yeah, actually, okay, we'll go 2 more hits. I do like these 2 questions. So the shirt fronters is Reed out or Caulfield for D'Ambrosio or Clark for Dempsey. So it's essentially, do you go Reed out as a red dot to D'Ambrosio or do you go Caulfield out?
I Reed out, I think.
Yeah, I think I still think you prioritise cash, and Caulfield will still make cash. I think that's to some extent. And yeah, would you be doing Jai Clark to Ollie Dempsey? I still think Clark will go well.
Look, Clark might end up being a bloody good cash gen rookie for us, right? I mean, I know he didn't have the best first game, but yeah, he might just want to be someone you want to hold on to there.
If he has a poor one this week, then yeah, he can jump off next week. But I feel like he could have a good game tonight. But yeah, I still think going Reed up to D'Ambrosio, which is what you're doing, I still think it's a good move. And then the final one here, so I do like this one from Jack. He said he's got Sherry already. Does he go Grundy to Gawn or does he go all the way up to English? Obviously, no Wits this week for English as well. Could put up a good score. So are you banking English in as a top 2 ruck and paying a premium, or are you going for Gawn with the value? I'm still potentially going Gawn. Yeah, so you're going to value. Yeah, cool. That's what we'll be doing. But yeah, and Reed said Garcia as well might come in for St Kilda, who could be another cash gen, who could be another cash cow, that we could be considering. And I think he might be 200K. So just cut out then. Of course, got to sign in for fantasy. But Garcia, I'll just check before we end up everything. Hugo Garcia is... I know he's a mid-forward, and of course this is not loading. He is a mid-forward that is... What's my computer? 200K. Yeah, so yeah, guy that you can definitely look at for next week.
No, we're 200. This one is right next to Combine.
Yeah, cool. Beautiful. All right. Well, apologies we didn't get to everyone's questions. There was a lot of questions that came through. Appreciate everyone that tuned in. We had over 200 people tuning in as we have a lot of beeping from Tim. But no, Tim, thank you very much for jumping on. As always, would you like to know what the people where they can find you, mate? Oh, no, Tim's on mute. Well, you can find Tim at Tim Guest AU. That's still the same one, Tim?
Yep.
Yep, cool. And you can follow him there. And if you are in Perth, make sure you head down to Campfield with Tim and everyone down there tonight. You can find me at Bails and Guesty on all the socials. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. If you are listening to this as back to podcast, but please give us a 5-star rating review. We very much appreciate it. And me and Tim will be back on Sunday night it'll be, again, 10:30 Eastern. It'll be a bit of a later one with the later game, but yeah, we'll still be on and we'll be chatting all things for round 2. So make sure you guys tune into that. Make sure you like and subscribe on the video on YouTube and everything, and we'll catch you guys and on Sunday night. Enjoy the round of footy. So thanks, guys. We're out.